And good morning, everybody. Welcome to this is I think a first, a TNT on Sunday. We decided click here when live for stream info. We've got new software today. Well, sorry, updated software. So it's going to be a bit of Russian roulette as to what happens. Indeed, speaking of Russia, we've got a guest today who was born in Russia. His name is Ivan Melnikov. Good morning.
Morning.
And of course, we've got Nick down the end there.
Morning, all.
Way down the end there. So today, the focus of our comments and our conversation, apart from anything that you'd like to bring up, will be about the impact of the Russian arrivals here in Thailand, because it has had a profound effect on the way that tourism happens here. Because in Phuket alone, there are about 3 times the number of Russians arriving every day compared to the least, the second most populous nationality, which is Indian people. And then there's Australians, bizarrely, number 3, followed, I think, by the UK and Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan, I think, is next to Russia.
It is, yeah.
Okay, you know your Russian geography?
A little bit. Russia is huge. You can't know everything, but I'm trying.
Okay, so look, welcome to you and welcome to Ivan. And if you've got any questions you'd like to pose to Ivan, that's fantastic. Nick, would you like to say hello to some of the commenters?
Yes, so Foxy recently just commented, "Morning, Tim and Nick. Foxy from the UK here. I am a long-term subscriber and to be honest, don't normally comment, but watch intensively to your developing channel and was warming to your new format."
Well, speaking of formats, yes, Saturdays and Sundays we'll be doing a live program about an hour long, and that'll be with Nick and me and sometimes a guest. And then on weekdays, we're going back to doing the 15 to 20 minute news with me. So that's our format for the foreseeable future until I come up with some other silly idea. Now, it's not quite a year since Russia invaded Ukraine.
Yeah.
I think it was February 24th last year. And at the time, there was international condemnation. It was headlines in all the international publications. And there were different, rations, when the international community put sanctions on Russia. Some of those have worked, some haven't. The Russian economy has seemed to survive most of those sanctions. It's been causing problems with gas flow into Russia. But it seems now, here we are in the 11th month, that a lot of those headlines are disappearing and they're sort of coming down to the 4th and the 5th and the 6th story, or not at all. And the heat's gone out of the conversation. But at the same time, since Thailand opened its doors, the Russian people have been, speaking specifically about Thailand, and this applies to Turkey as well, where a lot of Russian people going to Turkey, right, that in Thailand, they've been almost a beneficiary of this situation, where without the number of Russian tourists, Thailand's current tourism situation at the moment would be dire. And I mean dire. We'd be talking about having only 20 to 30% of our original tourism. But Russian tourists taking up some 15 to 20% in some cases of the tourism numbers arriving in Thailand, which is an enormous contribution. So we want to invite you, listeners, and we say hello to Don. We've got John D. We've got Cosmo, Reread, Key J, Lyric Poet. There are probably a few.
Scott D.
Scott D. We've got some new people today. People who may have usually gone to church have said, no. We'll watch TNT instead. And somebody from Sarawak, Albert Coe. So yeah, some new faces there. Great to have you with us, and we do our best to try and answer your questions. Ivan, you're a long-term expat here in Phuket. Would you like to tell people what you do here?
Well, I'm trying to live my life. I got a message from DTech, which is my mobile operator, saying, "Thank you for being with us for 9 years and 2 months." So I know exactly, kind of thanks to them, how long I've been staying here. Doing real estate, selling real estate for quite some years.
Okay, so real estate, and at the moment, I think you could probably say you are selling quite a lot of property to Russian families?
And 100% of the customers are Russians this year, which is quite unusual to me myself personally. But yeah, that's what happens.
So, could you put a bit of a box around who those customers are? Are they from particular parts of Russia? Or are they from some sort of socio-demographic community? How would you describe the typical Russian buyer of property in Thailand?
Well, most of people are from the same big cities where it's more than a million people living in the city, like Moscow, St. Petersburg, Yekaterinburg, and I don't know the list of
What's that
cities.
third one?
Uh,
Yekaterinburg.
Yekaterinburg. I call it because it's my city and I want people to know it. It's a beautiful.
What's
one.
the population of Yekaterinburg?
It's like 1.8 million, I guess.
Okay, a
I
decent sized city.
now quite much less. Like every city.
So are Russians, because obviously you keep in contact with your family and friends there, is there a feeling that they're fleeing the country?
Well, those Russians who make a decision to stay in the country, they kind of dissociate from the news and they dissociate from the stats and numbers. So they don't really think about this, I think. But we could tell that a lot of like quality people, I'm sorry to range people for quality, that it means we suppose some are not that high quality, but I mean highly educated people who can afford moving abroad, they do, and they did already in the last year.
Okay, so they're educated, they've got money, and in many cases, I see them as families who are trying to get a better future for their families.
For the children, especially putting them to international schools here and stuff, of course, all the time. So averagely, you've been asking, what is the portrait of those people coming here to buy properties? I could only describe the portrait of my clients, of course. So they are quite young families. I mean, it's a husband and wife, and they are around 35, 40 years old, right? So it's younger generation. They all fit, making sports and stuff. So they just destroy the old agenda when we perceived Russians like having big bellies and not doing sports, drinking beer. This new wave of people coming to Thailand, they are kind of really IT nomads and business owners. They're doing a lot of sports, healthy lifestyle. So that's a good change of the audience.
So are people getting into the conversation already? Hello, Travelodium Travel Magazine. We've got Arnold from Las Vegas. What's the temperature in your hometown, by the way, at the moment?
Is it January now? Okay.
It's January.
It's minus 25, minus 30.
Jeez.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. You have to put cream all the time to avoid cracking on your hands, cracking the skin off. And I'm like, wow.
Oh dear. Okay. Well, better off here. Why do Russian people like coming to Thailand? What is the attraction? Is it the fact that they get visa honor? No, they don't. They get visa exemption. They can come here with a 45-day stamp automatically when they arrive at the airport.
I think it's a function of they getting used to some basic locations to go to. I mean, the travel the locations, they used to be Egypt, how you pronounce that? Turkey, of course.
Yes.
And number 3, Thailand. They've been ranged in that particular order due to the price of traveling to that locations. So people kind of know Thailand for a long time. It's on the table all the time. That's why it was a choice to come here, to move here.
So in the first sort of wave of Russian travelers, which would have been around about 2010 to 2015, Pattaya was the most popular destination for them. But now it seems that Phuket's become a favoured destination for them. So why would Phuket be attractive to Russians?
I mean, because Phuket is not only the place where you can chill and go to the parties and bars. There are a lot of people we see, they come here to, as we mentioned, to give education to their children, and we have a bunch of international schools, and they can really create this comfortable living, including like socializing and stuff. Because in Pattaya, no offense, for me, it's just a place to chill and to party. Phuket is good for living, quite comfortable. All the infrastructure is here.
Okay.
Would you say that education is a big part about why some families move here?
Yes, I would say, because there is a steady brook of people coming here just to give an education to their children before they send them out to Europe for the universities and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, just noting that I think there are about 9 international schools in Phuket, and I've spoken to people about, well, at least 3 or 4 of them, and they've all just been booked out.
Yes. It's so hard to get in.
Yeah, it's literally impossible because so many Russian families have put their kids into the schools where they'll get a great education and they'll get a sort of a multilingual education.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me that Russians like coming to Thailand because there's always seems to be some sort of communication problem because when the Russians talk to the Thais, they're using this third language of English, neither of which they speak very well.
Yeah.
So I think this causes some problems for Russians living here.
Well,
Just communication.
I'm amazed with people who don't speak English and they manage to live in a foreign country, manage to live abroad. Because on one side, I'm very judgmental, like looking them down, like make an effort. I mean, you're not even trying. On the other hand, I'm like, it's so everything is so easy for me, and it's not easy for them. They keep trying, and wow, that's a lot of being brave in that process of just trying to learn something. But it's getting better because a lot of these people had to apply for educational visa and they have to visit all these English language courses now. And I saw among my clients as well that people are really studying English, they're really trying. So good, maybe we're going to see some change.
Should they be trying to learn Thai? Because at the end of the day, they're in Thailand.
Do you speak Thai language? Sorry.
Look, before people jump on me again, I have tried, and I've said many times I'm just stupid, and I find it. Now, Nick, you did a bit of research about.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, tell us about that.
So recently I had looked at, because many comments were made about the most difficult languages to learn, and that in some of the lists actually, hold on, I had it for a second.
While you're looking it up,
and some of them,
so go on.
Mandarin had come before Thai, which was surprising. At the same time, Thai had become it. So based on the different lists, it says that Russian, surprisingly, is one of the most difficult languages to learn as well.
It's fucked up totally. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I mean, there is no logic to that. Yeah.
All right.
So you can't just replace Russian words with English words. It doesn't work like that.
Sometimes we call them the false friends of the translators, because some words they sound like they should be, misplaceable with English words, but they really don't work. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So
But I have one friend, I must tell you. He's here for 1 year. He's Russian. His English is okay, quite okay, but he was really motivated to study Thai, and he speaks frequent Thai already. He talks to Thai people and bargaining the deals for himself just in Thai. And I'm looking at him like, really? So if you have motivation, you can do that in a year.
I've got a question here from Sir Gussie, who says, question, Tim, please ask Ivan, I think he's trying to trick you here, who Crimea belongs to.
Well, you want to know my opinion?
Yeah, I want your opinion.
My opinion,
These are
Crimea-
opinions, by the way.
Absolutely. All I say is super subjective. For me, Crimea is Ukrainian. No question to that. So whatever other people think, let them be.
Okay, so there's the answer to your question. There's so many people here. Thailand John, Trail Adventures, hello from Krabi. Eric says, hello, good morning, fellas. Scotty B is in Cebu. Good morning, everybody from Alpha Bravo. Mick Bishop, I watch TNT. Gospel. Durian says good morning. We've got Helen, Antoine, Kino, Alpha Bravo. Mango Sticky Rice, good morning, Tim, Nick and Ivan. So lots of people there asking lots of questions. Nick, over to you.
Reread asks, question for the guest, do the Russians that are buying property in Thailand seem to be the old money Russians as we see in London, or is it a new generation of Russians, more nouveau riche?
I would say
Nouveau riche.
Nouveau riche.
The new rich.
I would say both, but recently it's been more of the younger generation, as I've said. So those people, they manage some self-set-up business in Russia. It's an IT business, retail business, something else. And considering the age, they are all below 40 mostly. So it's a different generation. But
I've noticed mostly the families have been definitely younger families.
absolutely.
Sort of parents in the 40s, kids in the, young kids in the 5 to 10 year old.
Right. That's what I see too.
Yeah.
We still have those older portrait of clientele who are 55 plus, and in many cases their business is more somehow connected to the government and stuff. We will still get those, which is...
And you'd say that people who are coming here looking to retire declining in popularity, or...
it's hard to say because I'm not getting all the clients in the world, right? So let's say my older clients, they are not planning to retire here. They're still working in Russia, so they are vacating like audience. They come for 1 month and then they leave. But let's say their children came here to escape from being called to army and stuff, and they live here for the full year.
Okay.
How would you like to just guess a percentage of the number of Russian arrivals that may be young men specifically coming to Thailand to escape being drafted into the army? This is a guess.
So hard. I don't feel that it's a lot. Because I just recently spent a summer in Armenia, right? And the number for that area is like 90%, right? Or 80%, because it's so close by to Russia.
Right.
Thailand is a bit still remote destination.
Sure is.
So, but I think let's say half of it. Let's put it that way.
A lot of comments. Helen, I think I've lost your comment. Helen, here it is. She's got an opinion. She says Europe doesn't want them, so they're spilling into Asia. What do you, so I think Europeans are the ones who are obviously most immediately affected by the problems in between Russia and Ukraine at the moment.
So let's say I have a story, like a life story of a friend of mine who used to live in Thailand before, like 10 years ago or something like that. Then she migrated to Poland and she made a successful barbershop business in Poland. And I was looking at her like, hey, that's like a Cinderella story. That's so cool because you moved to Europe and stuff. And she got back recently here and I was surprised, like what happened? And she said, yeah, after years of duly paying taxes and creating the working places for Polish people and stuff, she was refused for another visa extension for the sake of kind of political reasons. And they said, we kind of don't want you. And she had to get back to Thailand because she didn't want to go back to Russia. So that's one part of the story. On the other hand, yesterday, one of my dear friends got a working visa to Poland, and he has never lived in Poland. So it's like the system in itself, when we say that Europe doesn't want Russians, the system is not the same. So one hand not always knowing what the other hand is doing, and it's different consulate to consulate, city to city. So
now, interesting for those people watching the camera, it looks like Ivan is tiny compared to Nick and me. The reason for that is it's a bit of a distortion from the camera. It's an extremely wide angle to try and fit the three of us into the one screen. So Ivan isn't quite as
on top of
sort
that,
of
I am
wimpy
quite
looking.
Tiny,
Yes.
and you made me even tinier, right?
Yes, I think if we swapped seats though, we'd probably look about the same. It's
Yeah.
the lens is. You should notice that Nick's
Just
sort of
broadest person
left
there.
side is somewhat stretched
Oh,
out.
that's wrong. You just made me feel like I'm not exercising.
A Travelodium travel magazine, David, in Vietnam, Nha Trang, most Russians are either from Siberia coming in on charter flights, and there were others who were based in Canaran Bay at the naval base in the past. Frank Weston, if you're not into go-go bars and beaches, then Vietnam in Laos is cheaper and better. It's like Thailand when I first visited in 1993. Various comments coming in, and we appreciate your comments. We'll try and get to as many as we can. Over to Nick.
Yes. R. Dewsbury asks, how are Russians buying homes when foreigners can't buy property or can't own property here?
All same questions. Like we're gonna drown in this conversation.
Well, okay, so 30 seconds.
30 seconds. There is a lease structure. You can get a lease from the developer. If it's a Thai company, you can open a Thai company, become the director, and hold the land through your Thai company because it's a Thai entity. So there are ways, and including much more difficult structures with BVI companies and shares and stuff. I mean, that's a different conversation. Like, call me if you want to know more. Can you put a number here? Like,
Well, we'll put a link in the description, Ivan,
thank you.
for a nominal fee.
Okay.
What is the name of your company? For those people that want...
International Enterprises, blah, 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 whatever it is. My name is my brand.
So it's Ivan Melnikov, International Real Estate Czar.
Beautiful, sexy, I mean, all of it.
Yeah, right. So we'll put a link in the description if you want to contact Ivan if you're looking for property primarily in Phuket, or you got contact in...
Just Phuket. No, I don't deal with other locations.
Okay, so there you go.
KJ asks, apologies if this has been asked, but has the general Russian perception towards the Ukraine war shifted since you were last on the show?
It's shifting depending on how that directly influences people in Russia. So a lot of people didn't care because before the mobilization came in and their husbands had to go to army and they had to hide their sons and stuff. They didn't care. They started to care more when that happened. So now we're expecting the second call to arms, second wave of mobilization, and people are pushing their sons again out of the country. And some people sent in their sons to fight, and they are proud of them. It's, there are so many different situations, but it's shifting little by little when people start to realize with their own experience what's going on.
Dewsbury, how are Russians buying homes? Oh, God, I've just did that one. Sure, so the questions keep on rolling in.
And are property prices rising in Thailand, would you say?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, they do.
So, okay, can you give us a bit of a guesstimate of how much properties have risen?
Let me
And is there a shortage?
quick.
And what types of properties are in shortage at the moment?
Let's say 20% for villas for the prices.
Over the
going up.
last year?
Yeah.
Wow.
30%.
New villas or old villas?
For the new villas. Right. There are not many old villas for sale. I mean, people are just buying all new.
This one?
Yeah. I'm trying to imagine how could I sell this one. I'm sorry. Some properties are nice to live in, not a nice product for the market.
Right.
Yeah.
Like this one.
Like this one. But,
Yeah.
thank you for hosting me. It's a nice land plot, I would say,
He has a yard. It's the largest I've seen
beautiful
here.
yard.
Yeah.
Not a high common area maintenance fee, I guess.
Well, I don't pay it. The landlord
You
pays it.
don't even pay, so
No.
there are benefits.
Sure. Life is cheap. I've been trying to master the Thai language, says Foxy, for 11 years. Still, like Tim, can only get by with basic Thai ordering food, for example.
Yeah, same
about
here.
it.
Same here. I can buy gasoline on the gas station, so I win.
I can order. I can get them to put petrol in my car. Yes.
I can put expenses to my company name. I mean,
There you go. All right, Nick. Were there some comments from yesterday which we need to address?
So from yesterday, JC donated 1,000 Thai baht the other day. So thank you very much, JC. JC.
JC, thank you very much, but team is still giving us the instant coffee, so we don't know where this money went.
Yeah. And,
Now you should say that you like instant coffee.
Yeah, I do, but I like Starbucks more. Just
Well, that's not much better than instant
hurts
coffee.
my East Coast soul because Dunkin' is better. Anyway, she says keep up the great
Dunkin'
work,
Donuts make coffee?
guys. Yes, America runs on Dunkin'.
Okay, now I know.
And Michael says, oh, this is about our tangent that we went on yesterday. Europe is a continent and the United Kingdom is still in that continent. The European Union is a club which you apply to join like a golf club. And it's controlled by unelected bureaucrats in Brussels and Strasbourg. Russia and other countries are also in the continent of Europe, but not a part of the club. I'm flabbergasted you don't know the difference between a continent and the European Union.
Well, we were flabbergasted by two things. One, that you thought that's what we said, which is not what we said. And secondly, that you can't spell flabbergasted.
And Wayne says, gentlemen, this format is great. Really enjoyed the program. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you.
And Tony said, Tim, as much as I like your videos, I was unable to enjoy this one because wisps of your plant in the background kept gently swaying in the breeze and distracting me. Would you please consider buying a sturdier plant? Thanks.
So the plant is, this plant is real. Some of the others are a bit fake. Ivan's real. But sorry if our plant wobbling in the breeze was affecting your day.
I never knew there are studio plants in the world. I'm just like, wow.
Like
I'm gonna
fake
Google
plants. This
Okay.
house is full of them.
Okay.
You just have to dust them off every now and then. Give them a bit of a spray. Vietnam is not better. What a myth, says Mick Fitz. This constant sort of comparing Thailand to Laos to Malaysia and Philippines. I mean, Thailand is just so unique. I don't know why the comparisons, but it does continue. Each of them have got their own joys, their own adventures, but I think it's almost silly to compare them.
And that's very personal. It's very,
Of course.
judgmental. Yeah.
Okay, Nick.
Yes, so... Sorry, I just had it and it moved because the chat's going.
The chat moves,
Yeah,
shuffle,
it
shuffle,
keeps
shuffle.
on shuffling. I just
A
had
lot
it
of
lined
people
up.
online today, and I have to say thank you all very much for dropping in. 331 people watching at the moment on a Sunday morning.
Oh,
Thank you.
cool.
Nong Wu Sao asks, "How do people pick on the Russian people in the holiday spots?"
I do a little bit. Being Russian, I pick
You pick on Russian
Pick
people.
on Russians.
Okay, not really.
I
Let
live
me-
here. You don't.
Exactly, but let me describe to you. I feel my life to be a little bit stolen just when I plan my day, right? And I know that how much time it usually takes me to drive from point A to point B, and traffic became a nightmare. And the way people drive became quite ridiculous, right? Okay, then I know that usually I'm able to have my breakfast in a particular coffee place real quick before I go to meet my clients. And I open the door, and the owner tells me, like, oh, you have to wait for 30 minutes for your order because we're full of Russians. And I feel like I have been coming to this place when it was COVID. I was the person like helping this business to survive. You're stealing. That's my table, lady. Like really, I have this feeling like of irritation. I don't take the right of people to be there at all. I understand, like they have a full right to be there, but I get my emotions like traffic is horrible. It's hard to take a quiet table in the restaurant. Children are screaming around you all the time. I don't even go to the beach because like I'm gonna freak out in 5 minutes. I'm like, I'm gonna wait till June, and then I'm like, what if they all stay?
Well, speaking about that,
I don't know.
Down Under Digger says the increase in Russians coming to Thailand is purely due to the current situation in Russia.
Yeah.
They can see the writing on the wall with Putin's totalism regime. He used the word.
Totalitarian?
He used the word totalism, but I think totalitarian. A
Mm.
question from Frank Weston: who is the little fella in the middle? I missed the start of the show. This is Ivan Melnikov, and as we said, Ivan sells real estate. He lives in Phuket, a long-time resident. How many years?
9 years and 3 months.
9 years. So he's almost a local. And the reason that he looks smaller is because the camera is somewhat distorting. If we all move in, Nick. I think see we sort of all look at.
It just makes it look worse.
You still look tiny.
Yeah.
Sorry. But there is a wide-angled lens which is sort of exacerbating the view. Okay, moving on.
Speaking of which, Mick Fitz mentioned, give me Ivan's details like the sound of the 20% rise in values. And I think we'll put in a link to your website, I assume, and your contact
Yes.
info
Yeah,
in
just
the
my
description.
contact. Yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
put a
and there
contact.
you can reach him there.
Yes, and Ivan will be giving us a 10% commission.
Wars.
I didn't mention that before, did I?
Why would you invite me if we won't have a deal here?
Yes.
And
By the way,
That's
that won't
bad,
happen.
right?
Praveen says, morning guys, been to both Russia and Ukraine, albeit for work, multiple times. I have seen only subtle differences between both places. I feel that Zelensky's current screaming is not assisting the cause.
I haven't got the question.
Oh, it's not.
Once
It's just a
again.
comment. It's just
Okay,
it's just a
comment.
comment.
All right.
But,
Give me a Phuket, says Anthony C, is expensive and the dearest cost of living outside of Bangkok. Okay, so I'll challenge that, Anthony C. I mean, obviously, I've lived here for a long time. If you want to go and live on the west coast in Kamala and Patong, Katakaron, yes, it is very expensive.
Yeah.
If you are poor, like Ivan and me, we live over on the east coast. So you live about, 20 minutes away from here. You live down, you're sort of in the middle.
how am I in the middle if I'm on the
Well,
bottom of the island?
Yes, you're on the very south of the island.
I
But
thought you guys live together.
no way. Not a possible chance of that.
No.
No.
I live in Rawai.
Oh my god,
But-
I never go there so far.
Oh, it is a long way, but I mean, it's also Rawai sort of in the middle, expenses wise.
Oh,
But over on this east coast, it's very, very cheap to live. I mean, I still get a 40 or 50 baht pad thai. We've got a 7-Eleven.
If you know where to eat, it's still cheap.
It's still cheap, that's right. So I think there are expensive parts, and then there are just normal cost of living. I mean, the Thais don't live along the west coast. They all come back over the hill and live on the east side of the island. So I think saying it is probably across the board.
But you have lived in Bangkok as well, right?
I've lived in
So
Bangkok,
how
yeah.
was it?
I didn't really notice much difference in the costs. I mean, the cost of rental was much the same as what we pay here. But this house, I mean, it's a 4 to 5 bedroom house on a big plot of land, and I pay 20,000 a month. I think that's quite reasonable.
It's incredibly cheap for today.
Sure.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. DD has the best coffee in the USA, the Dunkin' Donuts.
Dunkin' Donuts, yeah.
So lyric poets
Thank you,
on.
guys. I knew Dunkin' Donuts is better. I'm going to have to compete. I'm sorry.
You need to lean into your microphone too.
Bring
Please.
it next time. I need the
Peter
Dunkin'
Gold
Donuts.
says, Peter Gold says, bah, America runs on Dunkin' Donuts.
And there's no Dunkin' without you. It's their whole slogan thing. It's a big thing.
Frank Weston says, question for Tim, that'd be me. You suggest that the reason you don't speak or understand Thai is because you're stupid. I find this hard to believe. Lazy, perhaps, but not stupid. Well, no, look, I literally have tried 3 times. The only language I learnt in my first 50 years was English, which I struggle to speak on most days. I did learn a bit of French, but I was equally useless at that, despite sitting in the classes for 7 years. I remember arriving in Paris for the first time and trying my French, and they just looked at me like I was a complete Australian moron.
Well, I think they do that to most tourists there anyway. I mean,
Yes,
regardless of whether
yeah,
you can speak
There is
or
an
not.
attitude.
It's
I
yeah.
confirm.
But I can honestly say I have really tried. But look, simply, some people have got skills for languages and other people haven't. I have not been blessed with the DNA that gives me an opportunity to speak different languages or learn them. I have tried. I really have tried. It's not an excuse. I'm literally just not blessed with the neurons that have joined together in such a way that I can remember languages.
I say the same thing for music as well. For people learning music, some people naturally have a thing for melody, rhythm,
yeah.
and time, right?
Right.
And some people, unfortunately, don't. So you can tell that.
Well, I was told the best way to study the language, I mean, get a Thai boyfriend, get a Thai girlfriend, and stuff. I mean, any language. And I'm really jealous to people like you in a good way because you could tell straight away that you've been attending one of those international schools because you speak like a native, this beautiful accent. I'm like, oh my God. So those children who are like 5, 6 years old and their parents put them into international schools, they get so much benefit. That's going to be such a great tool for them.
Exactly.
That's incredibly valuable, even though they might not understand it.
There's no better community than an international community, and having the ability to grow up with these kids as well in Phuket in an international place, it really creates this new generation of
It's a mix
kids
of culture and stuff because it's all different.
who already have these eclectic views, and I
Right.
think it's great.
Yeah, I love it too.
So Helen's back again. She says Samui is expensive to rent. That's where I'm at. Plus, it's almost impossible to find accommodation that's decent. The market is saturated. Yeah, look, because there are just so many people. Well, look, when I say there's so many people, we're actually got less than half the number of tourists we've had in the past on average. But not all the hotels have opened again. Not all the tourist attractions have reopened since COVID. So that's why it feels like we're being saturated. But it is pushing up the property prices. And because so many of the people arriving at the moment are from Russia, then it's really this sort of Russian surge, S-U-R-G-E, not S-E-R-G-E. Get it?
Get it? Takes me some time.
So, yeah, because of this current surge of tourism, and the other question is, will it last? Will the Russians just keep on pouring into Thailand?
That's
And
the question.
when they get to that 45 days, what are they going to do? How are they going to get a long-term visa?
Well, still after the first 45 days, a lot of those come to make a border run or they fly to KL because it's fairly cheap, spend a couple days in Malaysia and get back. And people are, the horizon of planning is like 1-2 weeks. So people really don't know how much time they're going to spend here. So when I talk to my clients, when I talk to some of my friends who came here, I'm like, how long you plan to be here? And they're like, well, now we're here. We don't know much. We will see how it goes. Will they still give this 45 days or they're going to switch back in March to 30 days? Like people making decisions like step by step because it's hard to predict what's going on.
There are some countries that give visa waivers to Russian citizens, which are even longer than 45 days. For example, the Maldives, you can go there without a visa as a Russian citizen for 90 days.
Wow.
For example, Georgia, you can
That's
spend there half a year without a visa.
So are the countries immediately with borders to Russia, are they also benefiting from this sort of outpouring of Russian people escaping the country?
Yeah, I'm closely following the numbers and the stats about the economy of Armenia just because I got property there. My sister is living there. So they publish the numbers because the whole year is close to an end. An amount of transactions from Russia to Armenia grew up like around 300%. The growth of economy is around like 12% per year,
Wow.
which is usually like 3-4. and it's all about a huge amount of money people brought in because they've been moving companies and IT companies to Armenia and stuff. So definitely the countries are benefiting, namely Kazakhstan, Georgia, Armenia, like the most open countries who've been accepting Russians.
Okay. Now, somebody says they call themselves VGSHWK. I don't think I can even put that together as a word, but they say, I believe I ran into the guest at Taco Taco in Pattaya. Have you been to Pattaya recently, and have you been going to Mexican restaurants?
No, I'm sorry to say that I don't like Mexican food and I don't go to Pattaya, but probably, yeah, you just saw somebody as cute as me.
Oh, oof.
Wow.
So, yeah, good on you. Someone get Ivan a sandwich ASAP.
It's just the lens.
Actually,
It's the
Literally
lens.
just the lens.
It's the lens, right?
Someone suggested to get you a gym membership. And
You know, let me share my feelings. I would get offended a couple years ago, but last year I just realized that being skinny attracts so many people. I'm still in high demand, but I don't mind a sandwich, so everything works. All is fine.
Okay. Now, initially, when Russia invaded Ukraine, which we note was not even a year ago, about 11 months, there was a lot of people online, on even on my programs, who were saying things like, we're from Europe and we're not coming to Thailand if Thailand lets Russian people come into Thailand. But I think a lot of the heat has gone out of the conversation, and the actual reporting on the war has just disappeared from the headlines these days. It's almost become sort of normalized, and people are just not surprised by any of the reporting anymore.
Yeah.
Can I ask just your opinion of where you think the war is going to go from this stage?
I have no clue. I don't see an end to it because it looks like Putin doesn't want to step down, even if he sucks, and that's what happens. I wouldn't. I don't feel personally that the news are gone because I'm reading the news about the war every day. So my source of news is all about that.
Where do you
So
go to read your news?
I can't pronounce it because yesterday this source was legally acknowledged as unwilled organization in Russia. So
So you're reading Russian publications?
yeah, it's,
Well, of course it's
the Russian
going to be.
media working from Europe.
I suppose I'm talking about the international media. If I went to Fox or BBC or News.com or CNN, it's not the leading story anymore.
Well, people get used to everything, you know. It's harsh, but that's what happens. They adapt. It became a part of life. You can't spend all your time just worrying about this, just crying, and just people living their lives.
Yeah, I would be surprised if there's anybody from any country who is going, oh, I think I'm going to go to Thailand. Oh, the Thais are letting the Russian people in, so no, I'm not going to go to Thailand. I just
Right.
don't know if that's happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good statement. It's a beautiful posture. You're wearing a white coat and stuff, but real life is more complicated. So when you have to make choices and consider the prices, you're like, oh yeah, but maybe I can still, you know, marry it together, like here in Russia, but go into the same place where a lot of Russians go. I mean,
Can I ask of one of the people that work at a pub in Rawai, have you noticed an influx of Russian customers?
As of recent, we've had a couple Russian customers. I'd say nothing like a wave or anything like that, but definitely more Russians than I've seen in the past. So, but of course, by that I mean we get 10 more a week. I'd say, and they're not unpopular but popular at the same time.
I think there are particular places where all Russians go to particular restaurants. So if you're one of those like magnet points, then you get tons of Russians.
Yeah.
If you have not become the spot for them to come, you might not feel an increase of those.
I've noticed that We Cafe has kind of become a spot
Right.
for them.
It used to be popular.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, in most of the places in Laguna, just because a lot of Russians live around Laguna.
Yeah.
Sa G says, when does the 45-day entry end? Currently from October the 1st until March the 31st, the Thai government have extended the visa waiver for some 64 countries, including Russia and the USA and Australia, from 30 days to 45 days. So when you arrive, you get an automatic stamp for 45 days. That at the moment is scheduled to finish on March the 31st. However, I'm reasonably confident they're going to extend it past that. Some people suggesting that it could be until at least the end of 2023, but it hasn't happened yet. It's just a proposal. And for people on visa on arrival, you used to get 15 days. And I can't remember the cost. It's either 1,900 baht or 5,000 baht or whatever it was. That's currently extended to 30 days for a visa on arrival.
Doesn't like Mexican food or any food. I like people being mean, you know? This really nice, as I've told you before we came on air, like to get haters because finally it becomes fun. So everybody who want to comment on how skinny I am, go ahead. I'm gonna create very funny answers to you.
Franz asks, does Ivan know of any Russians that started telling people that they're Ukrainian due to the unpopularity of the war?
Sorry.
Have you ever been in a situation where you've thought, oh, people think I'm Russian? I'm Ukrainian.
No. I have a friend though whose passport is hi Nikki, by the way, whose passport is Kazakhstan, but he was grown in Russia and he used to position himself like a Russian guy all the time. February 25th, so 24th, he started to answer like, oh, I'm not Russian, I'm from Kazakhstan. I like, but you somehow managed to be Russian all the 25 years before, and now it's different. So yeah, it happens to some people, but
So Frank
not me.
Weston is expressing his ideas. He says it's all politics, but Zelensky does not want peace, nor does Putin.
Yeah.
You comment on that?
No, I don't want to comment. It's just like, I can only say I want peace. Let's reach it somehow.
Yeah, I think everybody wants peace, but Frank thinks that the leaders of those two countries don't want peace.
Yeah.
Jason Pizzino asks, does your business have rentals as well?
Yes, and we're managing. My boyfriend manages more than 60 properties, and they are all fully booked till end of February, already a month ago. So we can't get a lot of new inquiries because.
And are the rental prices like peaked at the moment?
An example: 36 square meter studio, which was given for rent during COVID when it was all locked, was going for
8,000.
15,000 baht in Surin. And then we gave the same property for rent in December, January for 60, 70, 80,000 baht. It's the same room. Yes, still booked.
Well, you could get those, I call them sort of dog boxes.
Yeah.
30 to 35 square meter studios, condos, so many of them around Thailand. You could get them during COVID for 8,000.
Yeah,
and you're saying you can get now 50 to 60,000 baht?
Talking about the beach locations like Surin, Kamala, Bangtao, if you want to stay close to the beach, yeah.
That's absurd. Jason King says, Tim, please understand, we don't have free press. We have the CIA. Russia didn't invade Ukraine. I love your show, but please get with the program. So there you go. Thank you very much, Jason, for your point of view.
Recently donated $7 Canadian. Thank you, Michael. He says,
thank you.
Do Thais view Farangs as having Samyant tattoos as offensive? How do Thais not in tourism bar industry view foreigners?
That's a question to you, I guess.
Yeah. A Samyant tattoo, is that like, I'm guessing is
that's the traditional tattoo on the back.
Tattoo on your back, yeah.
Do you have that one?
Angelina
tattoos
Jolie.
all over you.
No.
I do know that when Angelina Jolie came here to get that done, people loved it. So I can only assume that maybe if a beautiful woman from a foreign country does get that tattoo, Thais feel very honored. But at the same time, if it's disrespected or if you have the tattoo and you don't behave as honestly or truthful as you should, obviously I think that'd be contradicting why you got it. And how do Thais not in the tourism/bar industry view foreigners? Well, as a former student, foreigners, I just found them annoying because on my drive to school every day it would be blocked by them. So that's kind of it. But I do know that our economy does heavily rely on tourism, so I don't mind it because without them we'd have nothing. So
you
maybe
work in
nothing,
a pub, obviously you want the customers.
Of course, yeah.
This same VGSHWK, I think people are more concerned about the price of flights and exchange rates than allowing Russians in. I would agree with you on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Price of flights are very, very high at the moment and is probably the main suppression to Thailand getting anywhere near the number of tourists it used to have.
When you say we're only having a 50% of it, I just really don't understand it. Like where the rest of 50% shall be accommodated to. Even like traffic is like fully packed, right? I'm trafficking for hours, and I shall imagine another half of these people being somewhere on my shoulders or where. I really don't see where they coming to.
Steve Bubble says when Russia leaves Ukraine, then peace will be possible, along with Putin and his lackeys being brought up on war crime charges. Well, I mean, that's just all speculation and looking into the future. And I think everybody would like to see some resolution, but a resolution is obviously a long way away at the moment. And I can't really see any change in this situation for 6 months or a year. I don't know.
Do you know, like, that if you make a wish, you should not tell people about what you've made, otherwise it's not gonna happen? Do you have this thing?
No.
Like a birthday wish. You don't tell
Yeah,
anyone
you
what
don't
your
tell
wish was,
people,
or else it won't come
otherwise it's
true.
not gonna happen.
I make sure everybody knows
Did you
what my
watch
wish
Puss in
is.
Boots?
So there was the New Year joke, like, don't tell anybody your wish for the new year, otherwise he won't die.
Oh, I
If
see.
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So people sort of getting into the conversation. Sarji says Zelensky, who actually went so far as to spell his name correctly, is not bombing Russia. Russia is bombing Ukraine. Yes, we don't really want to talk about the specifics of the war or your opinions on the war. What we're really trying to talk about today is the impact of the Russian arrivals in Thailand and the problems they may be having or the problems Thailand will be having. I see the major problem is going to be with immigration. It's actually started already, and it's also been exacerbated by the problems with these Chinese triads and the fake visas. And now you're
Right.
getting this surge of Russian people trying to extend visas, apply for new visas. Me trying to get a new visa at the moment. It is dragging on for 2 months, and I'm actually
Yes.
having to go to Pattaya on Tuesday for a photo and a passport inspection because they can't process it here in Phuket. Now, that is very inconvenient for me, but it's just a symptom of some of the problems that immigration are having with processing visas at the moment. So that's my beef with the situation and how it's personally affecting me. But I think it's going to be causing more problems in the future as the 45-day arrivals and the extensions sort of run out, and these Russian people and the families who are wanting to stay here will sort of run out of options.
Yeah, correct. Now, I was thinking about this too. Like, of course, the immigration becomes more strict, implementing more checkups, and because they are overloaded with inquiries and paperwork, and that influences us, people who used to live here a long time before all of this happened. So yeah.
Now, another person saying, Steve Bubble says the Thailand is desperate for money, and he went and said another comment that's been removed by YouTube. Arnold says, my birthday is tomorrow. Yeah, good for you. Happy birthday to you, Arnold.
Absolutely.
And if that's what you wanted, somebody asking, can they meet up with me? I'm on a very tight leash on Tuesday, being escorted from the airport down to Pattaya Immigration, where I have a specific time. I've got half an hour there, then back in the car and back to the airport. So if you're at Pattaya Immigration, that's about the only chance I'd have to meet you. And you better bring a coffee from Dunkin' Donuts, from Starbucks. I don't care as long as it's brown. I'm not very fussy with my coffee. I'm sorry. I'm not very fussy.
Nong Wasao asked earlier in the program, I'm looking at all these comments about the CIA, and we've gone to a big tinfoil hat conspiracy tangent. He asked, why do lots of Thais eat on the ground? And I believe I can ask this one. So especially if we're looking at rural Thailand, you've noticed that there aren't a lot of chairs in the house, and that usually we sit on the ground because of that. And I think it's more of a traditional thing, and that family becomes, the people that you eat with. It's a very food-centric culture, I'd say. And so to share that, you roll out the mat, and that becomes your living room, that becomes your dining area, that becomes where you sleep. It's like the main focal point. So I'd say we eat on the ground because we can sit on the ground, we can squat, and we can sit Indian style. Or do you call it Indian style? We say crisscross applesauce.
We do, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's just an Eastern thing, because wooden stools and rocking chairs weren't really popular at the time. And that's why we eat on the ground. And also it's a table and seat all in one.
Then you become very flexible doing yoga because
Yeah.
your hips become open naturally. It's kind of practice you do all the time.
Yeah.
And people are like wondering why your hips are so open and mine are not, just because you have not been eating on the floor
Yeah.
through your childhood and stuff.
Look, just speaking to Steve, Frank, and Helen, they're really sort of getting into the nitty gritty of Helen's moving into climate change conspiracies. So, can you stop talking about this stuff? This is not the content for this particular stream. We're talking about the effect of Russian tourism and arrivals here in Thailand. Now, I do need, and so just behave yourselves a bit, please. Can I overlay the conversation by saying that the Russian arrivals has been generally very welcomed by Thailand because the Russians tend to open their wallets. Now, I've been to places like Tesco and Central, and they're buying up big vitamizers, washing
true.
machines. They're setting up home, and they're spending big money at the moment. They're buying cars. Speaking of which, you've got a new car. Whoa.
Well, I've told you it's not like from the dealer. It's like 3 years old, so I'm quite modest compared to Russians buying.
But a 3-year-old Lamborghini, I mean, it's still very nice.
There's no shame in that.
Let's pretend.
You're thinking like an entrepreneur. You know,
Yeah.
I can get the same car that's 3 years old instead of going directly to the dealership.
Yeah, because why? You don't want to lose 30% or
Of
40% of value in 3 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So it seems that we sort of may have run out of steam with the conversations or the questions related to our original intentions. Any final comments about how you sort of see this? Do you think the Russian people will continue to arrive in Thailand? Will they continue buying washing machines? Will they continue buying property? Or will this slowly diminish? Or if the war ended tomorrow, would the situation radically change?
Well, definitely, if the war would end tomorrow, a lot of people gonna pack and go because, anyways, their social life is left behind in Russia. Their friends and businesses, and you know, we feel ourselves different in Thailand because I have packed and moved many years ago, so I kind of more belong here than I belong to Russia. Not like all of these people who just packed the bag 2 months ago and they still have this strong emotional connection to Russia. So I think a lot of people would be happy to go back to Russia and live their normal life and develop business if the war would end. But they also come in here just for the sake of getting security, just being as far as possible from that, like from that danger to their life and stuff. But I don't really know. Like, we usually get used to getting a lot of work and inquiries in December, January, because it's a peak season, right? Then it shall like fade down a little bit. I don't have an answer this year what's gonna happen because we're still getting a lot of inquiries, still a lot of people coming in, even though the New Year time vacation is over. Like, people had to go back to work on the 10th of January.
You also have Christmas at the start of the year too.
Yeah, they all still here. So, I mean, it means the situation is different. It's hard to say how many people gonna stay here, how many people gonna leave. You know, we're gonna see.
Nick, over to you.
Related to that, KJ says, will Thailand public services and infrastructure be able to cope with both Russian and Chinese arrivals?
Good question.
Well, I think at the moment, clearly it's causing problems. The immigration, I think they've sort of got the airports now set up so they can stamp people in fairly efficiently. That's the general tone of what we get from our commenters. But immigration is certainly struggling at the moment. And it's partly because, apart from just processing them, they're doing a lot more checking than they used to in the past. Now, I've spoken to several visa agents and they've confirmed this, that in the past you used to sort of get away with a bit of this and that and a quick answer on a simple question. But now there's a lot more crossing of the T's, dotting of the I's, going through every document, such that I was refused a visa about 2 months ago because there was just one tiny little mistake. So, but it wouldn't have affected the processing of the visa to like 2 or 3 years ago. So apart from just this double checking on visas and more details being required, yes, it is causing a problem, both the number of Chinese and the Russian people who are seeking longer term visas. A lot of them, of course, as we said, are just trying to find a better life, and we are not in any situation to deny them that opportunity if the Thai government decide to let them live here. Okay, so any final comments from you? You're doing well, your real estate company, because the Russian people are buying up big, pushing up the prices.
There was hard time, but a good time. Yeah.
How do they how do they pay for the properties?
Funny enough, even though we have a lot of sanctions against Russian banks and stuff, there are a couple, three banks which are sending money so easily just by international SWIFT transfers still. So actually, we work the same way as before. Using some cryptocurrency schemes as well. I don't usually vote for it because it goes in the gray area in terms of property registration. You have to bribe it in the land department. But, there is still a clear way of sending money by SWIFT.
Thank you very much to John Freeney, who says, settle down, people. This is slowly becoming a political hate show. Be respectful, even if you despise someone or some country. Yeah, I think any hate you may have should be directed at the leaders who are waging this war, one of them specifically. And Helen says, it's not conspiracy, but truths regardless. I promise to behave for this channel. Thank you, Helen.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. And thank you for that. Good luck with selling properties to Russian people.
Yeah.
Only Russian people?
Well, lately, yeah.
Okay.
Just because the amount of inquiries is so high, you don't even try to find something else because it just says hi in Russian.
So there will be a link in the description if you want to contact Ivan. He's pretty, well, you've been doing real estate for some 9 years in Thailand. You know the industry pretty well. You know the way around the business.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
He'll arrive in his lovely, bright green Lamborghini. Would you call it a lime green or a frog green?
Guys, just a white Ford Everest. Relax.
It's a Toyota Corolla.
Any comments from you? Not that there's anything wrong with Toyota Corollas.
Yes, some people are agreeing that we should be more respectful in the comments. And of course, by arguing, we're only letting ourselves be as bad as the people in control. And it really shows that we are no better than them. So we can be better people than that. Kino says, have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Thank you, Kino. And Don says for me to ride the CBR through the set. And Foxy has a question. Tim, how are domestic flights from Bangkok to Phuket? Is it easier to drive down?
Oh, well, I drove recently, about a month ago, from Phuket to Bangkok and back again. Whilst I enjoyed the trip, I did it 2 days in each direction, just doing 4 or 5 hours of driving each day, or 5 or 6. I wouldn't do it again, unless it's quite tiring. But I sort of enjoyed the process because I haven't done it for a long time.
It's so funny hearing this, though, because having grown up in America as well, a drive like that sounds like nothing. I mean, we drive across half the country for fun.
Yes,
It's
but
just
I mean,
car culture.
if you're on your own and you're driving and you've got to do 12 hours in one hit, that's quite a lot of driving. It's not unheard of. In Australia too, where we're quite used to driving long distances.
If it's a trip, it's a trip. But when you go for a particular business matter to Bangkok, you want to spend as less time as possible.
Yeah,
That's the
I
thing.
get that.
But
yeah.
have you noticed the prices went up ridiculously during the festive
Yes.
season? The ticket, which was worth 1,500, they've been selling for 5,000-6,000. Especially, you can fly cheap to Bangkok, but you can fly cheap to Phuket because the demand is very high. So the prices got back to normal finally.
Well, yes, I got my, I think it was about 1,500 in one direction and 1,200 coming back to Phuket. And that's from Phuket to Bangkok with Vietjet, who I flew almost exclusively with during my 123 flights I did in the past 2 years before I left that other business. So, the prices have come down quite a lot since the big surge. But I'm imagining the plane's going to be pretty full. They usually, I've got some red X against my name because I think I flew so often. They always pop me in the exit row.
Okay.
Heaven forbid if there's any problems with the plane, because I'd be opening that door and straight out and bugger everybody else. I wouldn't be going, just be careful with your step. Just step out just be careful as you're walking across that. Next, I wouldn't be that person. I'd be, pow.
Nice to know.
Yes.
Good to
At
know.
least the window got to get open very fast for sure.
A question from Frank. I love the little fella. He reminds me of my, blah, blah, blah. So thanks, everybody. Thank you for joining us on our stream. And thank you to Ivan.
Nice to be here all the time, with you guys.
Yeah. It's great,
Well, it won't
great
be
to
all
have
the
you.
time. It'll be occasionally, if you're lucky. So thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you, and thank you, Ivan, for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any final comments from you?
People say thanks for the show, and well, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you for the show, and goodbye.
And also, I thank you, and I'm very grateful for those people who have been generous to the program, which is unexpected and always a surprise. Now, I'll be back tomorrow with the old version of the program, which is the 15 to 20-minute news. Nick will be back next Saturday.
Yep.
And we do this now on Saturdays and Sundays. It will be a live program, about an hour long, sometimes with a guest, sometimes not. And we'll try and get through as many topics as we can and give you access to some people that you can ask questions directly to. Thank you to all the people that joined in live. If you're watching it after the live program, hopefully you got a bit of an idea of this surge of Russian travellers into Thailand, how it's been affecting things, and just some impressions of what might be happening in the future. And none of us really know. You still got that coffee going that must be cold as cold.
Just exactly as I like it.
A few granules left in the bottom. Thanks, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you live next Saturday and with the normal TNT tomorrow morning.
And enjoy your day.
See you.
Bye.